Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a list review for the semi-competitive tournament at the Tafelridder on April the 7th of 2024. So this weekend, it's going to be a 1500 points Warhammer, the Old World tournament, and this is the rule set that we will be using to play. So it's actually the first Old World tournament that I will be joining in. So I'm quite excited to join this one. I should stress that it is semi-competitive, so you are inclined to make a bit of a competitive list, but just don't take all the cheese out of the cheese basket, please. There's some interesting things in the rules pack, so I thought it would also be interesting to just go through that together. Obviously, we have a schedule for everything. As you can see, we have 3 hours per round. We have 1 game in the morning, 1 game in the afternoon, and we finish at 7 o'clock in the evening. So that is, for some people, it might be a bit late. I don't even know what the difference is between Dawn of War, Meeting Engagement, and Hammer and Anvil, but I will probably figure it out during the week or during the day. And then, we go to the basic rules. I think this is a clause that is very valuable to include in the first couple of tournaments that we're going to play for the Old World. But there's also some general stuff in there to help people that are not that used to playing tournaments. So one is that if you have a rules question, there will be a judge and you can ask him or her any questions that you might have. You have to bring your stuff, so like your rules and your dice, measuring devices. The tournament is semi-competitive in nature. I think this is a very good point to stress. Please refrain from win at all costs. Play style, make sure there is a welcoming environment for new players. So, as a semi-competitive, maybe competitive player myself, I do like to dig in rules and try to find things that do work for certain armies, and then conclude that the game is actually more enjoyable if you don't really go for the most or for the strongest list, basically, because then the game just becomes a little bit less fun. So I think this is a good clause to include. It is really difficult right now to estimate the power level of certain things in the Old World, and it's also quite difficult to estimate the overall power level of what people will play. But I think it's a good way of phrasing it. Tournament consists of 3 rounds. That makes sense. Then we have a clause about the movement traits. I can make this a bit bigger, actually. So there's a lot of movement traits that are currently being produced by different companies. These are some indications on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Obviously, it is acceptable to have your models properly mounted on bases. I don't know if you can see actually with my face possibly in a way. So acceptable is anything that indicates quite clearly where the base of the model should end. What is not acceptable is a movement tray without inlines for where the models go. So what I have done is, I don't know if it's something in between or just something completely different, but I basically took pieces of wood where I made grid lines, just painted grid lines where you can just see where the bases extend, basically. So I think that should also be an option. Please only bring painted and based models. So normally they're quite strict on this, and this clause says that they're a little bit less strict on this. Hand your results in on time. Do not change the terrain. This is all kind of standard stuff to add in a rules pack. You hand in your army list, blah, blah, blah. Then we have some gameplay rules. Basically, this is already a tournament comp in the sense that it restricts what kind of options you have for your army selection. That goes beyond what Games Workshop has indicated. So without this clause, you would be able to take 24 gyrocopters and call it an army. Now you're not allowed to get more than 3 of the same units in your army. I think this is a good starting point. The only thing it doesn't consider is unit upgrades. So but that's also a tricky one. Like a musician is also a unit upgrade. So I would say that army specific unit upgrades, I would also restrict them to maybe 3 or maybe 6, something like that. But this is a good starting point. Arcane Journal is allowed, legacy armies are allowed, Sacred Games Workshop. No single unit in your army may cost more than 380 points. I think this is also a really good point for a first tournament. Otherwise, a lot of people are just going to bring the chunkiest dragon that they can find in the book, put it on the table and say that they have an army. So 380 points still allows you to bring the biggest dragon under some conditions, but not geared up. So that really significantly tones down the power of this type of model, I think. Army can cost a total of 1500 points. Some stuff about deploying and roll off. Not allowed mercenaries, which is quite general, I think. Then we have some frequently asked questions. So this is one that has been going on online quite a bit. If you have drilled, can you redress strength and then charge afterwards? Here the answer is going to be yes. And then some other things. I saw that there were 1 or 2 things that I thought stood out. So this one. Compulsory move is a required move. You can't elect not to move, and you must endeavor to move the maximum amount possible, if possible. You are not allowed to on purpose bump into things to have a shorter move if you can make your full move. I think this is amazing, and I think this should also be included in 9th Age for people that know 9th Age. I think this is just a really good, like you can still make a full circle if you want, like wheeling all the way all the time. So there's ways around random move, but I think this is really good. Fly does not stack. Italian people might be confused by this, but it does not stack. Impact hits do stack, but if you have a multi-part model like a chariot with crew, not every crew member has impact hits. It's kind of like, yeah, common sense, I would nearly say. Then the armor stuff, equipment stuff. Forests are difficult terrain, but not dangerous terrain, which is also quite a big point to stress, I would say. Magic items give benefit to bearer, only give it to the character, the bearer. And then some specific things. So this is the ruling that I think I find the strangest, which is that Maze of Hellstrom specifically does not benefit from Spectral Doppelganger. It is very, very strong if it does. Then again, I can't really care that much. Like, it's on a mage that has initiative 3. The mage doesn't have that much chances of getting any other defensive items, and compared to other choices like a high elf mage that can also get like Spectral Doppelganger on a greatsword, basically striking an initiative, it's not that much of a difference. It's just that Spectral Doppelganger is under certain conditions a spell that gets out of line very quickly. So I think it's mostly the problem there rather than with the Empire Maze of Hellstrom. Virtues apply to mounts. I do not agree with it, but there you have it. And some other stuff that mostly makes sense, I think. Also, people have already found out that the Ruby Ring of Ruin could target specific characters in a unit. Please don't do this. Just please don't do this. Then we have some scoring and prizes. So we have some scoring for how you get points, and then this one is also a quite important one, I think. So I believe the rulebook just says, well, look at the points that you got, and if you get like 1,000 points, then you clearly won, and otherwise it's a draw. I don't really know where the exact line is, but this does really help a lot. I think it makes it quite accessible to get 20-0 result. You have to have a difference of 1,000 or more. That seems a lot. But on the other hand, say that you have a unit that gets a bit worn down but doesn't give any points to the opponent. You have another unit that loses 50% of its models, then you get half points for it as an opponent, I believe. Fleeing 25% even, so you can get away with that quite easily. If you have a monster with 7 wounds and you have 2 wounds left, you don't give any points to the opponent. So I don't know actually if it's reduced to less than 25% of its starting unit strength. And I must say that I don't know if unit strength is based on the amount of wounds you have remaining or on anything else for monsters, but that would be an interesting one. So yeah, the victory points table, I think it allows for a quite efficient sorting of people with a range of scores that will be gathered over the event. Maybe they should bump this up more a little bit towards the, or make the last steps a bit more. I don't know if you need a linear distribution here, but that is also something that, basically that's just the concept of the game in general. Do you want people to really go for the 20 zeros, or do you want them to try to go into the middle ground? This, I think, is also a very good clause. The tournament organizer retains the right to deduct 200 points from your total before you're checking which side has won, for being late when starting or ending rounds or ending results, and using models that are not acceptable, converted in a way that is not acceptable. I think that is a very, very apt clause. Obviously, this gives a lot of discussion, maybe, but as you did register to the event, you do agree with this, and if the tournament organizer says that your model is very bad, and it's apparently very bad. Yeah, that's basically gonna. Oh, here we have the deployment. So first round, it's going to be basically the standard Warhammer Fantasy Battle deployment. Then we will only have 12 inches in between the armies, allowing one player to really push up and the other player to hunker down in the corner, basically. Then we have Hammer and Anvil, which is played lengthwise, which is also quite interesting because suddenly the board is way smaller, basically. I don't know if I like this in the end, because basically with standard board you have the amount of board space that you're used to, and here the backfield, generally you don't really use it that much. Then again, units that have a higher mobility, that are more able to clear the distance, they are going to be more valuable in this setup, I think, if the opponent wants to play a defensive game and just hunker down in the backfield. Like if you're a dwarven player and you start here right at the line of deployment zone A, and your opponent has decided to just go on the backfield, then you have a march rate of 6 inches. So in 6 turns, you go 36 inches, which is going to be about here. So, because yeah, this is 36. This should be about here. So basically, your opponent can make it so that you can never charge in your game. So that is quite dwarves in that sense don't have a win condition if your opponent doesn't want to engage and if you don't bring enough ranged damage. Yeah, so that is going to be the rules pack. Let's now have a look at the lists. So we have a wide range of lists. This is going to be my list for the event. I will be playing Dark Elves because we're going back to the old world. This is the first army that I ever played, and it will always be the last army that I will ever play. So what do I have? I have no model higher than 385 points. I try to make a list that is semi-competitive in the sense that it has some interesting things in there, but it is definitely not unbeatable. So I do have a High Beastmaster on a Manticore with the Blood Armor and the Pendant of Caleth. I think for the price that it costs, it's a good package that you get. Manticore basically is I would say it's a toned down dragon, because I only get resilience 4 on this model, which is quite low. Then the Blood Armor makes up for the terrible toughness, because I started with a 5 of armor with the Blood Armor. With the shield I go to a 4 up. For every wound that the High Beastmaster inflicts, I get a +1 on my armor save, and this is also triggered by the repeated crossbows, the way the rules is written. So I'm hoping to just blink a wound or 2 off before I engage, and then I go to a 2-up armor save. And then with the Bandit of Kailath, I have a 5-up ward save, which becomes a 4-up ward save against strength 5 or higher. 7 wounds in total. This is quite a decent package, I think. Beastmaster can give plus D3 attacks either to the Manticore or to any other beast in the army, and that's going to be that basically. Then we have a Death Hack. I think this is one of the scariest models in my list. And then the rest I think is less scary. So the Death Hack has base 3 attacks, 2 hand weapons, which I'm not going to use because I'm going to use instead my Ogre Blade. So I'll have 3 attacks, +1 for Frenzy, plus D3 for the Rune of Cain. So I will end up with 5 to 7 attacks, anything in between. Death Hack itself has Always Strike First, has Initiative 7 or 8. Has Strength 4 with +1 from the Ogre Blade, so Strength 5. The Ogre Blade gives Armor Penetration 2. The model has Hatred and Poison. And what else? Yeah, the Ogre Blade gives multiple wounds D3. So in the end I will have a model with 5 attacks, 6 attacks or 7 attacks with Poison, with reroll to hit, with Weapon Skill 6, I believe. So that's quite decent. With Always Strike First, Strike 5, AP2. It's going to go into the Witch Elf, so AP3, with multiple wounds D3. And that will be, yeah, that's going to hopefully do some damage. But resistance-wise, I have toughness 3, 2 wounds, and that's it. No armor whatsoever. Now we have a Supreme Sorceress on Demonology level 4 with the Tome of Fury for that extra spell. I think this is basically what everyone is going to bring, is a level 4 wizard, just basically for the dispelling purposes more than the casting purposes, I think. Because if you don't bring any, then you're not going to dispel any spell all game. Repeated crossbowmen, they are utterly bad, I think, because they have the A-team effect. So that's something very dark elfy that some people might recognize the term. Basically, it means that everybody shoots and nobody hits anything in terms of dealing damage. So on paper, they look great. 10 crossbowmen, 20 shots. Wow, that's impressive. Ballistic skill 4, so not even half decent, half bad, I mean. But with 20 shots, you normally hit on 3+, multiple shots is 4+. You are going to likely move because you have only 24 inches range, so it's going to be 5+, and then at long range, it's going to be 6 to hit. So in the end, with your 20 shots, you're going to do 3 hits. Or 4 hits, maybe, against Resilience 3, which is, or Toughness 3, which is quite low. You can have wound on a 4+, and then opponents still have armor. So you might do a wound. That's generally how that works if you don't include any cover minuses. So I just brought them just to include them, because they're quite an iconic unit for the Dark Elves. Then we have the other iconic unit for the Dark Elves, which is the Witch Elves. So yeah, this is just a murder machine except against shooting. So if my opponents have shooting, then these girls are going to have a hard time. If they don't, then it's going to be quite a good time for me. We have a Scorch Runner Chariot, which is basically a bolt thrower on a chariot. I think I'm going to plan to use it more as a chariot than as a bolt thrower, because chariot for 85 points is nothing to sniff at. This one is a light chariot, so it does have swift stride as well, which is quite nice. Now we have a War Hydra, which can benefit from the plus D3 attacks from the Beastmaster. And then we have a unit of Executioners that my wizard is going to go in. So basically, in the end, I have 2 combat units of infantry. I have a monster, I have a chariot, and I have a manticore. I think it's quite a balanced list in that sense, in the sense that I have a lot of everything except for cavalry. I don't want to risk having Cold One Knights that have low movement and are stupid. but we'll see how that develops over time. Then for my first opponent, actually, it's going to be Empire. This is going to be the list. Let's see if I can get it. Yeah, this is the entire list. So as we said, a level 4 Wizard Lord on a Warhorse, Empire Engineer, some captains. So I think in the end he has 2 models that are going to go into the Knight unit of 6. So there's going to be 8 Knights in total. And then to round that off, he has State Troops with a BSB. He has some archers, mostly chaff. And then basically the big thing from the list is the Demigryph Knights. I think I have some options of dealing with these guys, but we will see. Then he has a Great Cannon and a Hellblaster. Pistoliers nowadays have Impetuous, which is basically 50% frenzy, so I might be able to get rid of them quite quickly, easily, I don't know. Hellblaster I'm generally not that scared of, except maybe with an engineer, which he has. So the biggest issue with Hellblasters is that they still roll to hit, and normally you hit on a 4+, engineer hits on 3+, it's going to be long range, it's going to be 4+. If there's any kind of cover, which you can really easily get in Old World, you're going to hit on a 5+. So that's not that many hits. Sure, he's going to do some damage, but I think it will be manageable. So yeah, how I read this matchup, I think it's quite an okay matchup for me. If I arrive in combat, then it's going to be fine, and shooting-wise, he does have the Hellblaster that can spike, he does have the Great Cannon that can spike as well, but I think I will be quite okay. But we will see. I think it's a well-rounded list, definitely not the most powerful you can make with Empire, but definitely not the weakest. Then we have Mario Scheper with Chaos. So what does he have? He has a bit of a more condensed list. He has a Manticore as well. I wonder if the Manticore of Chaos, I think it's a toughness 5 piece, because the Chaos Lord has toughness 5, and I don't think it goes down with a Manticore. Diabolic Splendor, I have no clue what this does. The Favor of the Dark Gods, I know, because then you have a special table that you can roll on, and then you can get all kinds of wicked upgrades. So Chaos Lord could be cool. I don't know if this is a ward save. If it isn't, then it's just a Manticore with a 3-up armor save, which is fine. We have a Sorcerer Lord with Demonology as well, on a steed with an Infernal Puppet, which helps you dispel, I think. Then we have Chaos Knights. I don't know how I should rate Chaos Knights, because I find them really expensive for the hit points that you get. This is 5 hit points with a 3-up armor save. You have heavy armor, shield, and barding, so a 3-up armor save. I find it very, very tricky to rate this unit. And then again, Chaos Warriors I find less tricky to rate, because I think they're just too slow for the points that you invest. And they still only have a 4-up save, because they only have heavy armor and not even plate armor. Then we have Chaos Ogres with Mark of Corn and a great weapon. They are gonna, as long as they survive, they're gonna strike quite hard with Frenzy. And then we have some Chosen Chaos Knights with Mark of Nurgle. So these guys are gonna have a 2-up armor save, Banner of Rage, so they're also frenzied. I think it's going to be a list that's going to be quite easy to play, because you basically have 4 units, and you'll just see wherever everything goes. Yeah, 5 units if you include the Manticore. But it's just combat stuff, and yeah, it might do quite okay. I think in some matchups, the Chaos Warriors are just going to feel really, really inconvenient, because your opponent's going to maybe hunker in the corner, and then they just don't have the movement to get anywhere close to being able to charge something. Then we have High Elves. We have Richard van Straten, Sun Dragon, a Prince on a Sun Dragon, Full plate armor and a shield, so that's a 3-up with a dragon helm, so I guess that's a 2-up. I don't know what this does. I believe it makes it impetuous and it gives you an attack or something. If I'm right, then this is a bad deal, I think. A noble on a griffin, light armor shield, so a 5-up save, 4-up save maybe. A pure of heart, that's very cute, but yeah, I don't know what it does. It's like I also have these items that are like, oh my god, I'm so amazing, I'm pure of heart. Yeah, no, you're not pure of heart, you're just a killer. Mage, Ruby Ring, Ruin. Only a level 2 though, so there might be some spells that get dispelled by level 4 wizards, and he might not be able to dispel some other stuff. I think with magic you either have to go all in for the level 4 or not take it at all. Or you have to have some special fixes like Scene Charge as where you can get +2 on your casting. So you are effectively a level 4 anyway. Some Elven Archers, Silver Elves, Illyrian Reavers, Phoenix Guard, and a Lion Chariot of Grace. I think this is quite a cute list. Not overly competitive. I think if people can handle a Prince on a Sun Dragon, then this is going to be fine to deal with. It might even be a little bit too mellow, but we will see how it does. We also have Arlinde. He's coming with vampire counts with the Das Dunkelheimer Anti-Mann Kampfwagen Bataillon. That sounds very German. A White Lord BSB with the Drakenhof banner probably gives you +1 to hit or a ward save against range, because it has always done that. The White King with Talisman of Protection, Bedazzling Helm, which is the general. I didn't know you could have a White King general for vampires, but apparently you can. Strigoi Ghoul King, I guess he has lower leadership than the White King then, or at least the same, because otherwise this guy should have been the general. With the Dragon Slaying Sword, which is going to be amazing. So the week after this event, we also have an event that is a bit more casual, and I also have a guy with a dragon slaying sword, just to make sure that the dragons are going to be kept at bay, or whatever you say. Armor of Meteoric Iron. I didn't know that Strigoi Ghoul Kings could wear armor, but apparently they can. And I didn't know that. I think he's a wizard. He has armor, and he has battle magic. So I don't know if this makes sure that he can cast or anything, but otherwise it's going to be a nasty surprise for him. A Necromantic Acolyte, so he does have some kind of magic. Once again, a level 2, I don't really understand, but maybe that's just me. Some zombies. Zombies are quite cheap in this edition. Black Knights are nice, I think. And a Corpse Guard to keep everything a little bit more alive, I guess. And the Terror Guys. The Terror Guys, it's another one of these models that I'm not sure about how scary it actually is. Mostly because nothing in vampire counts can march. Except flying, and this guy flies, so I'm completely wrong. This guy can fly. But if you march, you cannot shoot, I think. And I think it also applies to the Terrorgeist. I don't know how scared you have to be of a Terrorgeist. It's only 200 points though, so could be okay. But it would be nice if it just screams some scary stuff to death. Yeah, so combat-wise, I don't really see it. Basically, there's only the Black Knight as a combat threat, and the Ghoul King. I don't know if you can join any units. I don't know if you can join zombies in this edition with a Ghoul King. If you can, then I don't know if it's a benefit to put the Ghoul King in zombies. I'm a bit confused by this list, but it might be a very, very nice list to play. I'm very intrigued to what Vampire Covenant is going to do anyway this edition. Then we have Joachim Tepas, or I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name, with the Tomb Kings of Khemri. So here we have the Necrolith Bone Dragon. So far you see that every single army, I believe, has at least one flying scary monster, like the Terrorgeist or whatever that thing is called. That's a Terrorgeist, right? Yeah, Terrorgeist. The Terrorgeist, my Manticore, the Manticore of Mario, Empire doesn't, and the Dragon of Richard. So I think it might become a general thing, we'll see. So we have a Necrolith Bone Dragon. It doesn't have any equipment though. Thank God it doesn't have the definitely underpriced and overpowered item that Tomb Kings have, where you have to reroll your successful 2 wound rolls against a Bone Dragon. I think that is one of the first items that should just not be in the book. Like -1 to wound, sure. Reroll to wound, nah. Tomb Prince, I have no idea what this does. I think you just needed a general, and I think that maybe the Tomb Prince is the cheapest option or something. Because I wouldn't really say that this equipment is the best. I think that this is maybe just the starter box army. So you have some skeleton warriors, you have some skeleton archers, some chariots, some horse archers, skeleton skirmishers. Basically you have something of everything. 20 tomb guard. Don't know if they're in the box. I think they're in the box as well. Tomb Scorpion and the Necr Sphinx. So there might be some extra stuff there. I have no idea about the power level of a Necr Sphinx, if it has toughness 8 or something because it's made of stone, or if it's actually a normal monster. Considering the price, I would expect it to be a rather normal monster. I don't know, in general, for the vampires and for Tomb Kings, how punishing unstable is going to be, or the undead rule. So most units, they just give ground, or they fall back in good order, as long as they don't roll a 10 when they lose combat. Vampires and Tomb Kings, they just lose wounds. You're gonna lose combat by 2 or something sometimes, and then it's gonna be really annoying to just take 2 wounds on your Necro Sphinx instead of nudging back 3 inches and not really caring that much. So I'm curious how Vampires and Tomb Kings will develop in the old world. I think that the last results have shown that Tomb Kings has been doing quite well. I think it's mostly related to the Bone Dragon with reroll to wound against it, because that's just impossible to get away. Then we have Arakan Katan. If I mispronounce, please correct me again. He has a Noble on a Sun Dragon and another Noble on a Sun Dragon, both with the Blood of Calador. Seed of Rebirth for a 5-up regeneration. I already learned about that item because that is a very cheap regen. I don't know what the Opal Amulet does. Dragon Helm gives you extra armor, Talisman of Protection gives you a ward save. So basically these are quite well defended nobles on Sun Dragons that are quite mobile, but they are impetuous, so if you can give them a charge that they might fail, then maybe everything's going to be alright after all. You might have to fall back in good order 1 round, but he's not gonna. It is double outnumber you to make you really flee very far. Like, I think you can draw out these guys quite easily and then countercharge with whatever juicy stuff you have in your own army, and then you don't really have to care that much, because the rest of the army as well, you have some Silver Elves that I don't really care about. You have some Elven Archers, you have some Dragon Princes, and then still, you do still have another Chariot and a Phoenix. I think out of everything, the Phoenix is going to be the most scary here. Because Dragon Princes also have Impetuous, so you can draw out some charges here. You don't even have to lose a unit yourself to draw out the charges. So I guess it's going to be quite manageable, but it also depends on the power level of the player for sure. I think it's one of the tougher lists in there in terms of mobility, and yeah, if you have a very good player behind this, then it's still going to do quite well. If you have a very good counter player against this, then it's not going to do that well, I think. But we will see, we will see. Then Jan van der Steen with Chaos Dwarfs. So it's really nice to have Chaos Dwarfs in the entire setting, I would say, because they used to be shunned into a corner. And with regards to that, it's quite weird for me. I believe they have been included as a legacy army and not a full proper army, whilst the focus was gonna be on the exile armies, basically, like the Bretonnians and the Tomb Kings. And I would say Chaos Dwarfs fits right into that build. What does Jan have? He has a Hobgoblin Khan. Basically, he shows that he knows the concept of chaffing. He has a Sorcerer Prophet level 4 on Demonology. Previous list didn't have any magic, did it? No. Then we have some Cutthroats, some Infernal Guards, Infernal Guard. Basically, just a lot of different stuff. I think it's a cool list with some iconic Chaos Dwarf units like the Iron Demon. And yeah, just for 45 points, you cannot leave Hobgoblin Bolt Throwers at home, I think. Yeah, I think this is one of the lists where I am a bit worried about the combat potential and the shooting potential of these Infernal Guard units, mostly because of the march rate of 6 inches. But with Demonology, you can fix it because you have the Steed of Shadows that he might roll and then he can cast it. I think for that reason alone, I would put a Lore Familiar on the Sorcerer Prophet, so you do get the Steed of Shadows automatically as one of your spells. Then we still have Nick. Nick is named Geister here, but it's Nick. He also has a Slann Mage Priest, so he also has a Wizard at level 4. He has Elementalism, I don't really know what that does. He took 3 Scar Veterans on Horned ones. The Charmed Shield gives you a 5-up ward save against the first wound that goes through your armor, I think. So basically these 2 wound guys, they have once a 5-up ward save. That might save them a wound. Heavy armor, Scaly Skin, Cold One. I think you go to a 3-up save, but I'm not sure. Like a Charmed Shield indicates that you also have a shield, right? So then he would have a 2-up save. So they could have a 2-up save. That would be pretty good. Skink Skirmishers are gonna love low armor units, like the Necr Bone Dragon. I don't know what kind of armor it has, but I guess it's gonna be a 4-up max. And then 13 Saurus Warriors, basically the same as Chaos Warriors, so I don't know if they're worth it or not. But they're a bit cheaper than the Chaos Warriors. Then we have Ancient Stegodon, which is, I think it's still like one of the highest damage dealing monsters on the charge, but you need to get the charge with it. Yeah, so quite a decent setup, I think. These guys can also fight Chaff War pretty well, and Skink Skirmishers are just dirt cheap. It's insane how cheap these units are. Last list is gonna be Japa Bavuna with Empire again. So it's quite a similar list to the other list. I think he has 2 units of 3 Demigryph Knights, if I read this in the correct way. Or he has, what else could he have? He has 378 points. We can compare it with the other list. So this list was 3 Demigryphs, 203 points. So if you take 2 units, then you'll... Yeah, I think it's 2 units of 3 then. With some Empire Knights, minimum unit with not even any characters in there because there's 2 Demigryphs. So they are going to go into the Demigryph units for 2 very chunky units that you have to be able to deal with. 2-up armor is going to save your ass. yeah, if you encounter stuff that cannot really handle armor, then it's going to be quite decent, because these units, they actually perform quite well, I think. So yeah, I'm quite excited to see how this is going to go compared to the other Empire list. I think it does have quite some potential with the demigryphs. But we will see. Yeah. Yeah, with that, we have seen all the lists. Do you guys have a favorite? If I would have to choose a favorite, I'm not gonna choose myself, because that's not cool, right? So the High Elf list from Arakan is interesting, with the 2 dragons and the phoenix. I'm not really sold by units with long charge ranges with impetuous. I think the Empire's japa could still do quite well, even though the infantry is not going to do anything. I don't really know. I think Nick's list is also interesting with these Corvettes. I don't know if they do enough damage on the charge. I think it's anyone's game, really. Even though I would say that my first round opponent, I am rather confident in this matchup, in the sense that I'm not expecting to lose with 20 points. But yeah, well, I said it now online, so it's going to happen for sure. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you then next time.